Let's make a simple and delicious plant-based Fra Diavolo that serves 4.
Using Butler Soy Curls. All right, to get started, you need some soy curls. How much do we have here?
2 cups.
Yeah, the serving size on these is 3/4 of a cup. We went with half a cup per person, and it's okay. I do suggest if you're going to soak soy curls, don't do them in a Pyrex the same size as the amount that you have. It's not a great idea. A bowl is much better. They have a little bit more room, but we did it and it worked. Basically, we just put water in here. That's it. It's just water, no broth, no seasonings, no nothing, just water.
Why are we soaking the soy curls?
Because if you don't, they don't work. You know, they're crunchy and hard, and you gotta, you know.
Well, the main reason why we're pre-soaking these soy curls, because obviously there's going to be more liquid in further down the road, is that soaking them just in plain water and then squeezing them out, that we'll do later, improves the flavor and the texture.
Yes, that. But if you don't soak them at all, they're just dry and not going to work at all. But anyway, soak them for about 10 to 15 minutes. These have been going for a little bit. The next thing you want to do is get your pasta started. Now for this, we're using Carpe Diem fettuccine, and we've started really using this almost all the time. I am trying to be a little bit reduced carb. I'm not saying low carb or keto or anything like that. Reduced carbs. Instead of 250 to 300 a day, I'm trying like 150 or 120 a day, you know? So this is great because a serving is only 16 carbs versus like a regular pasta, which can be upwards of 30 to 35 or even 40. So that's what we're trying to do. Also, lots of fiber, good amount of protein. So they're really awesome.
But you can use whatever fettuccine you like.
Yeah. But it doesn't even have to be fettuccine. You can actually do this with spaghetti. You can do this with any pasta you like. But fettuccine is like, I don't know, it just feels right. You know, it's the right, everything about it is just right. All right, so for this, I'm going to need an onion. Just one medium onion, nothing fancy. I'm using a yellow onion. You can use red if you really want to. You can use white if you really want to. But yellow is going to probably be the mildest, most appropriate flavor for this. I have a compost bowl right here. I should be using it. She put it out just for that purpose. And what did I do? I completely ignored it. By the way, the compost bowl, what do we do with the compost bowl?
The compost bowl either gets dumped into the compost, or if they're edible scraps that are appropriate for our homemade veggie broth, they go into a bag in the freezer until we have enough ready to make more broth.
We have a video on that veggie broth.
We do. I'll make sure to link it in the description below.
I think it was like the first video on the channel, actually. I'm not sure on that, but I think it was. And we use it all the time. It's a nice,
all the time,
no salt added broth that is very flavorful. The other day when I wasn't feeling well, I had just a mug of it nuked in the microwave, and it was fantastic with nothing added to it. You didn't put anything in it, right?
I didn't.
Nothing added to it.
Yep.
And it does the job, you know? It just works.
And it's fantastic because it's basically free.
Yeah, it's stuff you would have thrown away. All right, now for the shape of the onion, I just want like that kind of shape, you know? That. I'm just going to cut up the rest of the onion. And we joke about this all the time, but we're sitting down to do this because we have a tiny little kitchen. But we might be moving soon in the next couple of months. So we will have
hopefully we'll
a
be
larger
able
kitchen.
To stand like
Yeah,
real
we'll
boys
be able
and
to
girls.
stand up like real adults and really cook. Much larger kitchen, that's for sure. But it definitely makes it easier to cut things when you're standing up. Now, do you have to cut the onions into this shape? No, I just think it looks nicer when you do this kind of dish put together. Fra Diavolo, for those of you that don't know, just means a spicy sauce, really. And this is not a truly authentic anything because, well, it's plant-based. And normally Fra Diavolo was made with shrimp or calamari, things like that. So, we're using soy curls. It's okay, though.
All right, my list is requesting a half of a red bell pepper.
Just half?
Just half.
All right. I like to cut like this and go around the rib of the bell pepper and cut into the bottom. That way there's almost no waste, and I don't have as much rib to have to try to remove. Not that you really have to remove the white ribs in bell peppers, but, you know, I just like to. Now, you can use green bell peppers if you like. You can use orange, you can use yellow, or you can use red. The reason we use red is
for color, and because they have the most vitamins, right?
They have the most nutrients in them. They're the sweetest as well. A lot of people don't realize it, but all bell peppers, green, yellow, red, orange. They're all the same pepper,
Yeah.
just different stages of ripeness. And that kind of, once I learned that there's more phytonutrients, I think that's what it is.
I think that's, yeah.
In the darker colors, the brighter colors, that kind of thing. That's when I said, you know what, we're just going to use red ones from now on. We've been using red ones for years now, and they're great.
Yeah, whenever I go to the store, I always look for the darkest red, and that's the one I pick.
But they also say, you know, you should eat the rainbow. And that's because that's where all the micronutrients are. I'm not going to get too detailed into that sort of thing, but that's the gist. So go with red. Plus, it's like one of my 2 favorite colors. So
Now I have all the other ingredients that we're going to be using today displayed on the table, but as soon as Brian is done chopping up the veg, we're actually going to move to the stove.
Yep, because that's all the prep you got to do, other than have these things ready to go. All right, so I have a pan over medium to medium high heat on the stove. And to that, we're going to add our onion and peppers. And hear that sizzle? You should hear a sizzle. If you don't hear a sizzle, your pan was not hot enough. That is one of the secrets to no oil cooking right there. If your pan is hot, things won't stick as much, because what happens is just little droplets of water start to come out of the food and they kind of vaporize instantly and keep it from sticking. Now, using the hex-clad non-stick pans actually is a huge help for that as well, and I suggest them if you are interested. We do have links to these in the description below. I just want to keep this moving, kind of like a stir fry almost. I want to soften everything, but I really don't want any color, and I know I have this pan pretty hot. If things start to stick or you start to see color, add a little bit of water or veggie broth in the pan and you'll be fine. Now, my recipe calls for 3 to 4 garlic cloves crushed. I'm using pre-diced up garlic here, and I'm just going to put in a couple good spoons of garlic. I mean, you know, we're a garlicky people. I like to put the garlic on top of things like this because that way, see that little bit of liquid coming out is going to cool the pan, but also it keeps things from burning. Burnt garlic tastes kind of bitter and nasty, and I don't really like it. I don't expect that most people do. But this is a garlicky dish. It really should be garlicky and spicy and that kind of thing. Yeah, it's just good. Okay, you can hear the sizzle die down. That's because the water in the pan cooled it down. We can play with that temperature that way by using different liquids while you're cooking. That's kind of an important thing to know. But I do want to cook it just a little bit longer. All right, so this has been going for maybe 3 or 4 minutes. Just looking at those onions, I can see that they're starting to go translucent. That's what we want. And I don't have real color on that garlic. It's all still just, you know, garlic colored. It's not turning brown or anything. Next up, I'm going to add my tomatoes. Now, these are just Italian crushed tomatoes and tomato puree. We go for ones that have lower sodium. Like this particular one is 49 milligrams of sodium, but there's 6.5 servings. So there is a bit of sodium this way. If you wanted to, you could use whole tomatoes, but it's a whole lot more work. And it's a 28-ounce can. I'm just dumping that right in. Yes, I know there's still some tomato in there. Don't worry, I'll get it out soon. For the moment, though, I just want to mix this around. Now, to me, Fra Diavolo is more of a fresh sauce, meaning it doesn't cook and cook and cook for hours on the stove. You want it to be a little bit more fresh, a little bright. That's why we're cooking it, and it's essentially going to get served within like the next 20 minutes. I have here a half cup of dry white wine, and what I'm going to do is pour that into our can, give it a little swirl around. The white wine adds a little acidity and just an extra little touch to the dish that when I used to make this without it, it was kind of missing something. And once we added the white wine to it, it really worked. If you really don't want to use white wine, you can leave it out and you'll be fine. It's not like it's absolutely a necessity, but a lot of the alcohol is going to cook out, and it is only half a cup anyway. Now here's the ingredient that makes this Fra Diavolo. Well, sort of. This is red pepper flake, 1 tablespoon. You can use as much or as little as you like. And I have here a tablespoon each of thyme and oregano, dried of course. If you choose to use fresh herbs, you probably need to use twice as much. And to add just a little extra umami and flavor boost, I use nutritional yeast. This is 2 tablespoons. And of course, you have to have fresh cracked black pepper, as much or as little as you like. As I've said a million times, Derica likes black pepper, so pretty decent amount. Probably about a half teaspoon or so. And something that I like to put in, it's not actually traditional, but I like to use this balsamic glaze. And I just put a teaspoon in. What this does is it makes it a little bit more meaty. If you don't want to use it, you can certainly leave it out, but I think it adds a nice touch. But don't overdo it because it gets weird. Now I want to mix this through. I still have the heat up. It's on 6 on my stove, just so you're aware. I'm probably going to turn the heat down real soon now. See all those herbs change the color of everything. It's no longer that bright red anymore. But it smells so good. The wine and tomato really, really works so well together. I turned it down to about 2 on my stove just to keep it from boiling over. We don't want that, and we don't want it to burn or anything like that. If this sauce starts to caramelize, it's not going to be quite as good. So next I have our soy curls. So what I'm going to do is just start grabbing like a small handful at a time and squeeze out the liquid just like that, and then drop them right in. Now you want to squeeze these out because if you don't, well, they don't taste as good. The texture is not the same. And by squeezing them out, they're like thirsty kind of. So when you drop them into this sauce, they're going to soak up a little bit of the sauce and make it really, really nice. And make sure that you get them all squeezed. It's going to take a few minutes. Okay, and once your soy curls are in, we're just going to mix that around. I mean, it's looking good already, right? If you haven't ever used Butler Soy Curls, they are a different product from soy chunks that we've also used on the show. These are really considered a whole food. They're the whole soybean. Don't ask me how they process them because I don't actually know. But they're pressed basically into a block and then shredded like this. Whereas soy chunks are actually defatted. They're closer to TVP in reality, which we like TVP too, but soy curls are actually a little closer to whole food. And then my other favorite color, black olives. We have a half cup here. I just like to put them in close to the end because, I don't know, something about cooking them too much just seems like overkill to me. And yes, they are a necessity in this dish. But, you know, if you really don't like them or you don't have them, you can leave them out. Don't substitute green olives, though. That would be a very different thing, and I don't think it would be quite as pleasant an experience. So don't do that. And then we have our pasta. Now, I just pulled it out of the pot and stuck it in this bowl, so it's all sticking together, of course. The Carpe Diem pasta does cook a little longer than your traditional wheat pasta. This I cooked for 13 minutes, by the way. I just find that the texture is much better when it's like what you would think is overcooked than properly cooked. But I think it says that on the box too. And then we want to mix this around. This is when I wish I had a larger pot to do this in. But it's okay. I'll get it. Okay, so now I have that mixed up pretty well. And, you know, you might think, oh, that doesn't look like a lot of sauce. Well, that's because I have a little trick up my sleeve. Remember that pasta water? You didn't dump it out, right? You kept it. I just have it right here. I'm going to use just a few ladlefuls. Comes to about a half cup or so. And what this does is it does, well, a couple things. First, this water, see how it's murky and milky? It has starches in it. Those starches are important, because when you add them to the sauce and the pasta and everything else, what it does is it kind of marries everything together. It makes this really velvety, smooth texture. But right now, I have the temperature too low, so I'm going to turn it back up. I know what you're thinking. I just turned it down. Now I'm turning it back up. Yes, play with your knobs. Trust me, that's what they're there for. Emerald used to say that. Use your knob. Had I left it on that high temperature this whole time, I probably would have burned something by now. Now what'll happen is if I have too much water in here, having that higher temperature, some of it will cook off. And also the starches will reactivate and they'll start to thicken the sauce just a little bit and make everything sort of stick together and come together. Okay, after the heat's been turned up, it's bubbling a little bit more. It's been about maybe 4 minutes or so and things are a lot more sticking together. The sauce is much more homogeneous and nice and velvety. That's what we're looking for. So now it's time to plate this up and give it a taste. Now it's time for the best part of every cooking video, the tasting. We just have a little taster plate here. We're going to eat this for dinner later. I'm going to get a little bit of everything though. Some pepper, some soy curl, some noodle. I got everything but noodles.
How did you miss the noodles?
I don't know.
That takes talent.
Apparently.
All right, this is a big enough bite for me.
I got noodles. I would call this a medium spice level. It's got enough kick that you know it's there, but it's not like going to burn your face off. There's enough other things in here that are keeping that in check. Of course, you can make it spicier if you want to.
Yeah.
You can leave it out, but it won't be Fra Diavolo. I would put just a little bit in. If you're really, really sensitive to it, just leave it out and you'll be fine. It'll still be a great tasting dish.
The addition of the wine and the broth from the pasta water, really elevates this beyond just your typical spaghetti.
And I say this all the time. Don't throw out your pasta water. I almost never dump the pasta into a colander to strain pasta. Almost never do that because you need that pasta water. If I know I have to do that for a recipe, I'll usually reserve a cup or two of the pasta water before I dump it out because it just makes all the difference. It thins the sauce a little bit. It thickens the sauce a little bit. And it does a lot of little things. It makes the mouth feel a little bit different.
My mouth is alive right now with all the lovely flavors in this dish. And you saw how quick and easy it was to prepare.
Yeah, I think we can put the whole thing together in under half an hour. It's actually super fantastic that way. The soy curls really, really work well to absorb the flavors and comes across like a chicken-like product, okay? I hate to say things like that because people get angry that, you know, you're making simulated meat, but we're not. We're making something that contains protein that you need to eat, that contains all of the whole food of the bean. So basically, this is beans in here. Think about it that way.
What do you think about storage options for this?
Well, I think you can put this in the fridge for a few days. I don't know that I'd want to freeze it, but you could try. I've never actually frozen this one before. I don't know how soy curls do when they're frozen and re-thawed, but I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work if you really had to. But it's so quick and easy. This serves 4. If you only wanted 2, cut it in half. That's how we do it a lot of the time. I made this recipe to serve 4 simply because we had a 28-ounce can of tomatoes. Now, if you only used a 14-ounce can, you can actually cut this recipe in half really, really easily without having to put half a can in your fridge. So that's kind of the way we started making recipes, that they use up the whole of the ingredients to make it make more sense. If you have a recipe that you'd like to see us make a plant-based version of, let us know in the comments below. And as always, guys, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on The Bistro.